Ted, do you believe you have a soul?
What did you think I would do at this moment when you're standing before me with tears in your eyes? That answer your question?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Fanzone debate. We're here. It's an exciting one. We got Tyler Burch versus Will Cohen. Looking forward to this one. Will had a really good match towards the end of the year last year, taking on Richard, winning that match. It was, I believe, his first win. So much needed for Will on the record there. Last time that we saw Tyler, he was playing Brooklyn. He went on to lose that match, but it was a good one. It was a close one. And so Tyler is looking to kind of get back into it, get on the win column again. And I'm looking forward to it. We got Payson here. Payson, love the shirt, my friend. How are you? And what do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, if I'm not in a movie theater, you can find me at a White Castle. But I'm actually very excited. Tyler is a player that I think is underrated in debate. Will can come in with some fiery takes, and it's always fun to see him back those up. I think it's going to be really fun. So I'm excited. Jack's here. He's usually a delight. So, yeah.
Yeah, Jack. Yeah, burying the lead. Jack Pinchuk here, first-time judge, or what is it? Long-time listener / debater, first-time judge. So, Jack, welcome to the judge's seat. What do you think of this one?
I think this is going to be a good one tonight. As someone who's debated Will, I know how skilled he is in this league. He's a very, very, very underrated debater that I don't hear talked about as much as he should be. And Tyler, I haven't debated yet, but he is also someone who I've seen a lot of in this league, and is also sneaky good. So I can see, honestly, either competitor taking this. I'm very excited to get into it.
Yeah, I think we should do just that. So we'll bring in the players and we'll explain how it's going to work. So it is going, the players drafted. I was like, I don't know where I'm going. You know, the Michael Scott thing. Sometimes I start talking and I just don't know where the sentence is going. That's what just happened. But this is what's going to happen. The players drafted categories. I gave them questions based on the categories. They're going to debate the questions tonight before our very souls. So they will each get a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing at the end of the debate. Payson, Jack, and I will write on our boards who we thought won the debate. 2 out of 3 votes will win you a point. First player to 3 points will win the game. Any questions from the competitors?
No.
Great. Let's do it. All right, I've just got to, I'm contractually obligated to mention that around the time that this is airing, Ted Season 2 on Peacock. Please enjoy. All right, let's get into it with the first question. This was drafted by Mr. Burch in the category of directors. The question is, which film directed by Steven Spielberg has the best villain? Tyler, you get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
You leave your children at home while you go out for a night on the town. You have no idea what's happening to them. All you know is that it is the unknown. Imagine coming home in fear because you see the house torn up and your children gone, and you're not sure what happened to them. Once you find a way to find them, you reach a storybook land where everything seems to come to life, and you interact with the best villain of Steven Spielberg, which is Captain Hook and Hook. A man who is complex, somebody who is missing a foil, somebody who is oppressed Neverland, who believes he's gotten everything that he's ever wanted, and yet he still is empty. He's still trying to figure out what is his purpose, what can he do? And we see him go through this journey as he terrorizes Peter Banning and his family. He brainwashes his kid. He takes down pretty much everybody around him, and finally we get that satisfying conclusion where he is vanquished.
Okay. All right, great. Let's move over to Mr. Cohen. Will, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Whenever you think about who the best villain is in a Steven Spielberg film, it's really hard not to pick on the fact that Steven Spielberg just obviously hates Nazis. And so I had to obviously choose Schindler's List because Eamon Goeth, played by Ralph Fiennes, is easily the not only like the Nazi that almost all Nazis would want to live up to, but this man is just the pure embodiment of evil. Whether he is shooting people just because they're not working hard enough, or whether he is shooting, whether he is having someone get killed so he can just take their ideas and pass them off of his own. This man is just 100% evil from start to finish. He is so menacing, and Ralph Fiennes plays him so menacing that he actually caused an actual Holocaust survivor to have a panic attack on stage.
Okay. All right. We will get into this 5-minute freeform. When one of you starts talking, I will throw up the 1 minute warning when the time comes. If one of you is talking too much, not letting your opponent talk, I'll throw up the let your opponent talk. Don't make me do that, or I will only make you eat Burger King fries for the rest of your existence and nothing else. So 5 minutes when one of you starts.
So it's funny that you mention that Captain Hook goes and kidnaps children, but essentially, isn't that what Peter Pan did back in the day?
Yes, that is something that he did.
So then how can you really consider that to be like true villainy and like make him the best thing when the hero of the story did the same thing?
Well, he's trying to force Peter into a war by kidnapping his children. You can argue about Peter Pan and his morality all you want. That's not what this is about. It's about the best villain, and he's somebody that's terrorized Neverland, somebody that people quake, that pirates adore. We've seen him just randomly kill somebody just because they bet against him. He shows every single classic sign of villainy as best as he can. For your guy, Eamon Goeth, yes, he's cruel. Yes, he's violent. Yes, he's greedy. But so are all the other Nazis. He's just he's a cog in this machine. Yet, as you can tell, because once everybody's getting sent to Auschwitz, you forget about him. When he shows up again and he's killed, you're glad that he died because he's a terrible human being. But there's no fanfare. There's nothing. He's just a farewell that they tacked on there because the real story, what was going on with Oskar Schindler and the end of the war.
Yeah, you're plotting him dying because the entire time leading up to that, everything that he does is just true villainy. He is killing, you want to say that that Hook is killing his own men. This guy is killing women, children, and people that are working for him, all because he essentially can. You want to talk about complex. This is a guy who's complex. He hates himself internally for being attracted to his Jewish maid. To the fact that he comes on to her because he's been wanting to be with her for so long, and then when he realizes what he's doing, he beats her and then throws a bookshelf on top of her. That's just pure evil. What Hook does is just comical in comparison.
I'm going to stop the clock for a second. Will, your mic is like, there's a little bit of reverberation. So like some of your words are getting lost. Can you try talking again?
Okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Okay, great. I just don't want to, I think I got everything you were saying. I just don't want to miss anything. So go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. But Hook, like what Hook does, he takes out his own person and he has his own little morality issues, but he's more of an danger to himself, because you actually see him put a gun to his head and actually have to have his own person talk him down off the ledge in order to do that. That's more of a danger to himself than to these other people. So he's a charismatic villain, but he's definitely not the best villain. Amon Goth is definitely the best villain by far.
So there's a lot of different types of villains in this world. It can be somebody that just shoots people randomly, like Hook did, and you're Amon Goth guy. But the reason why Hook is so incredible as a villain is because of the layers that he has. You bring up the part where he was thinking about killing himself. That is a depressed man. That is a man that is empty, and you see him try to fill that through villainy of brainwashing Jack. You see him take all those special moments that Peter Banning was supposed to have with his son as his own, as he takes away his kid from him in more ways than he did before. For Amon Goth, you talk about like the maid and everything, but you think about all the scenes when they go into the ghetto and you see them kill all the people that are in there. That is cruel. Yes, I would cheer if every single person that was involved with that died. The guy playing the piano, he should definitely have died. Like, the thing about Amon Goth is he doesn't stand out. You say that he's complex because of his feelings of interest. Really just makes him a weak character. That's why Oscar Schindler is able to pretty much manipulate him the entire time. He relies on him. I think Oscar Schindler maybe kind of just shows off that Amon Goth is nothing but a dog, and if you tame it, then there's nothing to fear.
Except that he is absolutely the embodiment of fear. Every single time anyone is around him, he is just oozing with that gravitas. He is just inspiring fear at every turn. He is just an absolute heartless character. Now, like for Hook, like him turning his son against Peter. Peter is already doing a really good job of turning his son against him anyway. So Hook hardly had to do anything in order for Jack to really just turn sides like that. So the problem is that Hook is just being funny. My character is just towering fear.
Okay. We are going to start closings with Will. Will, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Amon Goth is just, is absolutely heartless. It does have complex issues. He doesn't half the times doesn't understand his own feelings, and you see that on stage. You see that on screen. You see that with his interactions with the maid. You see that with the interactions with everyone. But at the same time, but the guy takes his job so seriously, and he is so in for the cause that he knows how to inspire fear, and he knows how to inspire other Nazis, which is absolutely which is absolutely scary if you think about it. This is the first time that Spielberg has really shown the absolute scary side of Nazis, and there's probably a reason why he hasn't done it since, really. Whereas Hook is just very comical. He does have some charisma behind him, but if you think about all of the villainous acts that he's done, he takes out his own men, and he does something that Peter is already doing to himself. So really, that's not a villain.
Okay, let's move over to Tyler. Tyler, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Captain Hook is a character that's been menacing Peter Pan for a lifetime. He is absolutely the best villain because of his complexity, the way that he's able to oppress everybody around him, but also he's vulnerable and he feels like he's missing something in his life, which culminates in him brainwashing Peter's child. And even that scene where he kills Rufio, he kills a character that at that point you thought was invincible. So everything about what he brings to this table, it shows why he's the best villain, and he really fits in that story. Amon Goth, he is eclipsed by the machine that is the Nazis. His cruelty, yes, it's there, but also so is all the other cruelty of the Nazis. When they go to Auschwitz and you experience that fear that they have, Amon Goth, all out of your mind. You don't even think about him anymore. he's just an avatar for the system. He doesn't stand out as on his own. He would be too scared to do anything if that system wasn't there. And Oscar Schindler takes him for a fool time and time again, and he allows it to happen because he doesn't have any strong convictions.
Okay. Really good start, guys.
There was a really funny joke answer that I was hoping someone would have picked.
The big fucking guy.
Was it the shark?
Seth Rogen from The Fabelmans would have been an incredible.
I was going to try to challenge myself to choose John Hammond.
I was this close to choosing DiCaprio from Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, that's fair.
I love that movie.
It's a good movie.
Okay.
Fun fact: this is my second debate.
That's true.
In Fanzone?
A long time ago.
Not in Fanzone. We debated about 2 or 3 years ago over in
it was a while ago. Yeah. That was my first interaction with Will.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, like I said, good start. I think that it's very easy when we're talking about villain and someone picks a fucking Nazi,
Especially
and not like the cartoony one, but like the real one, like the real stuff. For it to just be like, oh, I gotta vote for that. But I thought that Will actually did a really good job of talking about Amon Goth and more behind it than just he's a Nazi. And I thought that Tyler's attack on it was really strong too, of being like I wasn't expecting that from Tyler, of being like just a cog in the machine. Once you see the Auschwitz scene, it's like nothing, like whatever. Thought that was a really good way to attack it. I really especially like the line from Tyler where he said like, if this guy didn't have the machine behind him, he wouldn't be doing anything. Like he's a wuss. So I thought that was a good line. I did ultimately go with Will because I felt like Will did a really good job of taking down Hook and just kind of being like like I really enjoyed the way he phrased it with like, well, Peter's doing half the work for him. like as a dad, he's not being a great dad. So that's part of it. And it's just like this childish almost way that sure there's some charisma there for sure. But overall it just doesn't totally work. And that worked for me. So Payson, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this was a really interesting argument going in where I heard the choices and I was like, well, this is going to be an absolute stomp. And while one person was winning it throughout the majority of the fight, this is one where it came down to the closing arguments and someone just completely cinched it for me. Jack, it's your first vote and you get to decide it because I actually went with Tyler. I think first off, I do like when Tyler said, "Oh, Amon Goth just sort of feels like a pin in the haystack in terms of Nazis," and Will said, "No, there are things that separate Amon Goth, the way how he's in love with his maid, who is also Jewish, and how that is complex." But I really like how Tyler in the closing argument sort of cinched how Hook's childishness that Will was talking about early is actually something that benefits him as a villain because that motivates his entire motivation for kidnapping kids. And while there are moments of Schindler's List that while Tyler said, yes, there are moments where Amon might slip your mind, while you're watching Hook, you're never forgetting about Dustin Hoffman in Hook. So call me crazy. I think Will had the correct pick, but I think if I was going by arguments, Burch gets my point.
All right, Jack, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this was a good one. And Tyler took this in a direction I wasn't expecting with his attack on Amon Goth, because I realized that on paper he is the correct answer. That on paper that is the right answer. And he picked a really outside of the box pick, and from a movie of Spielberg's I'm not familiar with. And the attacks he landed against Goth and how he built up uh, Hook as a villain really worked for me. I went with Tyler on this one.
I beat the Nazi boy.
On paper, like if I were given first choice in this, 100 times out of 100 would I take Goth as the pick, because on paper that's the correct pick. But Tyler surprised me with his arguments, and I thought he made the better argument.
All right, great. All right, well, that means Tyler is up 1-0. We're going to move into the next question, which was drafted by Will. It's the category of musicals. The question is, which post-1989 live-action musical should get a sequel? Will, we're going to start with you. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
So if there's anything that I feel we are absolutely missing on the musical side of cinema right now, is we absolutely need more puppets in cinema. So I had to choose Muppets Most Wanted as the film that absolutely deserves a sequel, because the world just needs more Muppets. The Muppets are a positive and just a positive presence every single time they're on screen. It's always fun. You're always leaving with a big smile on your face. But the reason why, especially why that a sequel to Muppets Most Wanted would work, is because just like other sequels like Muppets Take Manhattan, all of every sequel always always makes references to the previous films, but each film does feel like it's its own standalone film as well, and so it would honestly work no matter what the plot is.
We're doing a sequel. All right. Let's bring in Tyler. Tyler, you get 1 minute when you start talking.
So for musicals, a lot of the time they're usually meant to be self-contained. So trying to find one that deserves a sequel and warrants story that has a sequel, it was a difficult pick. For me, I chose Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Now, the reason why I chose him is because not only is it a unique experience for musicals with its gothic look and its story, but also we have things that we can do that we can continue the story with. So namely, Toby Ragg's story after slitting Sweeney Todd's throat. So we can do a movie where he is, he's probably at this point grown up and he has to go to something like, be apprentice for a barber college, whatever they had back in the mid 1800s. And he has to learn he has to try to be good because he wants to honor Nellie Lovett, who was like his mother figure who saved him. And he still feels that darkness that he experienced with Sweeney Todd as he tries to push it farther and farther away, but he just can't help being wrapped into it in this gothic, nightmare of a life.
These are my friends. Oh, guys, you're picking stuff that I love tonight. All right. 5 minute freeform, but whatever you start.
So honestly here, Tyler, the sequel, the sequel that you're pitching for a Sweeney Todd sequel honestly sounds like the musical version of the American Psycho sequel, and that sucked hard. And so I can't see myself going to see that, even as a true diehard musical fan. What we're on the contrary, the Muppets just need to be in cinemas at all times. Like the Muppets always bring big show stomping moments, big heart, and you always leave with a giant smile on your face, which is something that your film will not let me do.
Okay, well, so there's been 8 movies for the Muppets. They've done all different kinds of variety. I feel like it's a tired franchise at this point. There's not a whole lot extra that they can go into. Trying to do a sequel specifically for Muppets Most Wanted really doesn't work because there's nothing there. They don't have any story that goes on after that. They wrap everything up. You say that this is the musical version of American Psycho 2. First of all, everything's different with every single movie. This story would be interesting because we get to see somebody who's trying to be good, whereas in Sweeney Todd, we're seeing somebody who's been embracing the bad. So we'd be able to create a foil experience. And also we get to see those iconic straight razors, and you can even tie in Joanna and Anthony and their story and her trying to process the fact that Judge Turpin was killed in front of her to be able to add a little bit moral complexity as these people try to navigate their lives post Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, but at the same time, isn't that just going to feel like another, just Sweeney Todd again? Like you're right. Right, but here's the thing, like most musicals, as you say, are self-contained. The reason why, for instance, the sequel to Phantom of the Opera didn't work is essentially it was a sequel to the thing that felt exactly like the musical that I was aping in the first place. Whereas with the Muppets, we have brand new blood being up behind the production of it. We just saw on Disney Plus, that Seth Rogen is bringing back the Muppets. If he could actually get Disney to greenlit a film for him, he can bring in all of his friends, all of his talent, and make a great sequel. All the Muppet sequels have been absolutely different from each other, and so each film has been a blank slate. Just because it will make some cursory references to Muppets Most Wanted, doesn't mean that it's just going to be a tired franchise. This is definitely not a tired franchise. Everyone wants Muppets. Everyone's been clamoring for Muppets.
Not the box office of the last one, but yeah. So for the Muppets, yeah, you can say anything you want about what this movie would be, but at the end of the day, you have to still come up with a story. There still has to be something that's there. People are excited about the Muppets and that TV special that you're mentioning because of the people that were involved, not so much as the return of the Muppets. And you would have to
always say that was always about the show too. Like that's why we always felt about like the Muppets Tonight or the Muppet Show. You're always excited to see what the guest was and the guests interacting with them. Like even if you take things like Muppet Christmas Carol, what made that compelling is Michael Caine's interactions with the Muppets as well as the Muppets. So if you have a great cast like that, hell, you can even make it about how, hey, why are we doing a sequel? Why are we doing a trilogy? Do we even, was this a film? They didn't even need a trilogy. They're great at meta. The Muppets have been always great at meta. And so no matter what the story is, it's always going to nail. All the jokes are going to just land. All the songs are going to land. Whereas with a Sweeney Todd sequel, that's going to feel very tired and very similar to the first one, to the point that it's going to get boring really quick.
No, Tim Burton's been he's got that gothic style that get people to come back for more. So if you bring him back,
every Tim Burton sequel has been abysmal though. Like look at Beetlejuice compared to Beetlejuice. It's nothing but the same. It's nothing but the same. Something like the same.
They're really excited about it, and it's been about the same amount of time. Well, no, it's been longer than that, but for Sweeney Todd, and there's a plethora of things you can do with that. If you don't like my Toby Rags story from the original, then we can go something differently where he's got an apprentice. That apprentice becomes Jack the Ripper. If you look at the timeline, it's possible. You can do a lot with that. With the Muppets, you're just planning on throwing the Muppets into anything. That's not going to bring people back. This is a franchise that people need to buy back into. Yeah, you can get cameos as much as you want, and the dads that take their kids there will be like, oh, look, it's that guy. I remember that guy from 20 years ago. That's great. But you want these kids to bring the money. You need to bring the money like that animated money.
Time. Okay, let's do closings. We're going to start with Tyler. Tyler, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
The world of Sweeney Todd is rich with possibilities for after Sweeney Todd died. And that is mainly about Toby Rag and his journey after he killed Sweeney Todd, him grappling with the morality of trying to honor Nellie, while also the darkness that is left behind by his experiences. You have Joanna and Anthony also trying to process their own grief, but because of what they went through. All these different lives that Sweeney Todd touched, you get to see how that percolates, whether you want to do it immediately after, 20 years after. There's story that's there. For the Muppets, we've already done 8 stories with the Muppets. We've taken every single story that we can. The swashbuckler, science fiction, Christmas, blah, blah, blah. We throw some cameos in there. We hope people come in. The last movie didn't do well financially. These movies need to make money. You need to get that kid crowd, and that kid crowd is not as interested in the Muppets. It is all people that are, in their 40s that remember the Muppets back in their heyday that are going to see it. You're not going to get people that want to go and see the sequel. It's not going to get greenlit. It's not going to be good.
I am 30. How dare you? All right. Freaking Will, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Hey, I turned 44 in a month. Trust me, I understand. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I'm going to absolutely rebut. If there was no interest in the Muppets, we wouldn't have gotten that new special. We wouldn't have gotten someone with like Seth Rogen to back that special. We wouldn't have this new renewed interest in the Muppets if there was no interest in the Muppets. We haven't tried the Muppets since, so we can't, so I don't want to hear the box office argument. We haven't tried it now with kids loving things, especially with Sesame Street being so in the zeitgeist, which is also a Jim Henson property. Everything that was being pitched with the Sweeney Todd sequel feels either exactly like Sweeney Todd, just a lot lesser, or he's pitching something that wasn't even a sequel. It's like, oh, well, what if Toby has an apprentice and that's Jack the Ripper? But that's a Jack the Ripper story. That's not a Sweeney Todd story. That's not a Sweeney Todd sequel. So he's pitching something that's not there. The Muppets, you can do anything you want with them.
Strike it from the record. Let's bring in the judges.
I don't like the implications of Muppets, you can anything.
Oh, Tyler.
Considering one of my friends pitched a Muppet version of 50 Shades of Grey, this is nothing new to me.
After the Happy Time Murders, anything's possible, man.
A friend of mine, we cast all of Les Mis with the Muppets. So it was like the Hugh Jackman Muppets, but like which ones would we swap out for Muppets? And it's really fun to do that every now and then. As long as you bring what's his face back, Steve Whitmire. That new guy is ass.
Oh, is he?
Oh,
Kermit's my favorite too. I don't know if I could deal with that.
Terrible Kermit voice. I haven't watched the special yet, but Muppet Haunted Mansion made me want to like stab my eardrums because it hashtag
my boy.
Steve Whitmire sounds like Jim Henson. This guy sounds like he is doing a Kermit impression while his throat is being attacked by a garbage disposal.
You doing the LaCroix version of Kermit?
Yeah, I just am not a fan. But maybe it's gotten better. I don't know.
I would meet me and another chatterperson. We were pitching a Magnolia, but with Muppets.
I'd love that.
Yeah, we kept Tom Cruise.
Out of this guy.
Yeah, we kept Tom Cruise as the one human, but we have Statler and Waldorf as Jason Robards. So he's just fucking roasting him as he's crying at the end, even though he's dying.
Oh my god. Okay. Jack, you're kicking this one off.
Yeah. Now I understand what all other judges mean when they say, I hate this. So both made interesting pitches for sequels for their films. And while I would love to watch the Jack the Ripper musical, I did end up going with Sir Chipmunk, Will Cohen. I thought Will honestly kept pretty aggressive on the attack in the freeform, didn't really let Tyler get a whole lot of room. Most of what Tyler said in support of his film, Will was able to pretty effectively shoot down for me. And not that Tyler did poorly by any means, but like when Will, I think twice, before the last time Tyler started talking, interrupted Tyler like pretty quick to point out the faults in it or the potential issues in what he was saying. he just couldn't. Tyler couldn't get much room to breathe here. So I thought Will did a really good job with this one. I give to Will, although I would love to watch either the Toby one or the Jack the Ripper musical.
Yeah, Muppets for Life. And hashtag Sweeney Todd, because Sweeney Todd is great. I love the movie and I love the show, so I'm all about it. I did go with Will. I felt like, yeah, Will had this kind of took this one and did, like Jack said, did not let Tyler get any room. Every time I was like, oh, I kind of like what Tyler's saying, Will was like, actually, no, that sucks, and then said why. Coming out of the gate with the American Psycho 2 comparison was wild and apt, and it worked. And I thought it was a really good argument from Will. Again, I like Tyler's pitch of like a not spiritual, but of like a legacy sequel to Sweeney Todd. But Will kind of had me convinced on the Muppets, and I don't think Tyler did much to dissuade me of the Muppets by being like, it's just somebody you knew 20 years ago. That's what the Muppets has always been, like that from the beginning. So even in the original, in the Muppet movie, the kids go to the theater, they don't know who the fuck any of the guest stars are, but your parents know who Steve Martin is. So Payson, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm actually the odd man out here because I actually went Burch. I like how Will was attempting to take down Tyler's pitch of, hey, here's why a sequel to Sweeney Todd wouldn't work. We've seen this idea before. I think Tyler did a great job saying, like, hey, just because it's been done poorly in the past doesn't mean it's going to be done poorly this time. I think my issue with Will's was just I was looking for something a little bit more specific other than, oh, you could do anything. And I was just looking for like just some sort of thread of like, okay, what is this movie going to be? At the same time, I hear what Tim is saying of like, that's kind of what the Muppets always have been of like, hey, here are these guys you haven't seen in 20 years. So I'm obviously in the outside here, but Tyler did get my point. I will say, Will said all Tim Burton sequels are terrible. Batman Returns, the masterpiece that it is, would like a word. So
not good, not a good movie.
How dare you? How dare you?
If that word is overrated.
Not a good film. Not a good film.
Next question. No.
I'll stand by I'll stand by. All right, we're going on to animation.
Weird here.
So I could take down Nazis, but not the Muppets, apparently.
Yep, pretty much. Yep, you could like you could take down the Reich, but not the not the puppets. All right,
Gotta catch them all, Amos.
Moving on to animation. This was drafted by Tyler. Timely. Though I haven't seen the trailer. So the question is, who gives the best vocal performance in the Toy Story franchise? Tyler, we're going to start with you. You get 1 minute when you start talking.
So when you think about Toy Story, you think about one man, and that's Woody, the cowboy, the charismatic leader, the one that's trying to keep it all together while these toys lose their minds. Brought to life by Tom Hanks, somebody that brings warmth, depth, and makes Woody relatable and endearing. Somebody that brings a complexity to this character in 1995 that wasn't possible with the animation that we have today. He was able to bring in shades of envy, fear, exaggeration, sarcasm. Everything that gets channeled into his vocal performance is what makes Woody the character that he is today. He makes him a straight man, but also he is able to bring in some humor. He's the fearless hero, but also he gets embarrassed when Bo Peep gives him any kind of attention, and he blushes. All of this is conveyed through the vocal performance. Everything else can support it, but at the end of the day, you're staying there because of Tom Hanks.
All right, let's move over to Will. Will, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Ned Beatty as Lotso Bear in Toy Story 3 gives one of the most absolute nuanced and powerhouse performances of the franchise. And that's the reason why I chose him, because you get everything out of Ned Beatty's performance. You get the warmth, you get the inviting, you get the you just get that warm buttery goodness from him 1 minute, and then you all of a sudden it gets turned on a dime and you get fear out of him, you get pain, you get longing, you get you can see the power consuming him, and all from a pink teddy bear. Ned Beatty looks like the sweetest man, but here he is just absolutely crippling with fear.
Time. All right. Great choices. 5-minute freeform. When one of you starts talking.
My problem with Tom Hanks throughout all the 4 films so far is that while he does a good job, he is never the most memorable performance of any of the films. He gets overshadowed by Tim Allen in the first one. He gets overshadowed by Kelsey Grammer and Joan Cusack in the second, and absolutely he is just annihilated by Ned Beatty in the third. So I'm not saying that Tom Hanks does anything wrong necessarily, but to call him the most memorable, I feel, is just a misnomer there.
Well, it would be a misnomer because we're talking about best vocal performance. And the reason why he's the best vocal performance is not only because of what he brings as Woody, but also because of his chemistry with the cast. All those people you talked about, the reason why they are able to do even half as good as they are is because of what Tom Hanks brings out with them with Woody. There would be no Buzz Lightyear without Woody. And you see that. If you're talking about Tim Allen's performance, it's the same throughout, except for one freak out. But if you look at Woody's performance, you see how he evolves, how he has, his envy when he decides to when he tries to play the prank on Buzz, his fear when Buzz is gone and that everybody's going to throw him away and that he's going to be lost. You're talking about the other performances. He has emotional arcs throughout each that Tom Hanks sells with his performance. You see in the second one, him trying to decide what does he want to be? Does he want to be a kid's toy, or does he want to be a toy in a museum and beloved by all? And you see that conflict that's in him because of the way that Tom Hanks sells it. It's funny that you bring up, Kelsey Grammer, because if you really think about it, Lotso is a lot like the other villains that we've seen, which is Stinky Pete and Gabby Gabby. Both of them are cut from the same cloth as Lotso. So when you start putting them in a lineup together, they kind of blend in.
Except where Ned Beatty stands out is that he absolutely gives the most nuanced performance of all 3 of them. Gabby doesn't have the menace that Ned Beatty does. Stinky Pete doesn't have the warmth and inviting nature as Lotso does. You actually get to experience. You actually get to see the pain that Lotso feels. You get to hear it in his voice. You get to experience it when you see Lotso, and you hear Ned Beatty's just absolute, sometimes soul crushing performance of this. You can hear, even when he's like being angry and power hungry, you can still hear that it's coming from a place of pain, which is really hard to convey in a vocal performance. But the fact that you can hear those layers in there, it's just something that Tom Hanks, while he is a good performer, while he does give a good performance, you're not quite getting as many layers in there. And it's often, and because we see, he plays almost the exact same way in all 4 films. Like by the time you get to the 4th film, it has a very, has this feeling of, okay, I don't want to hear Tom Hanks screaming anymore. I don't want to hear him yelling at anybody anymore. I want to see what else he's got in the tool shed.
No, he's a completely different character in each one. You make it sound like he's retreading the same ground. Him in the 4th one, the emotional nuance of realizing that he's not the favorite toy anymore, realizing that he's being put in the closet, his his whole reason of being is gone, and him having to try to take care of Forky in some way to still be relevant. You feel that in that emotion. You feel that from his performance.
But he was going, but he was already, he was already going to be put away in the third one. So he's already going through that. You already saw him going through that motion
of that story, which is what a sequel is. In the third one, you say with Lotso that he's got all the nuances the other villains don't have. That's not true. But he's not, because Stinky Pete, he plays the warmth. He manipulates Woody the entire time, all three of them. So he has that. Gabby has that loneliness, that pain. You can feel it when she's thinking about Harmony and she's thinking about how she got thrown away. All these villains are of the same ilk. So your whole thing is just the fact that this guy's played by a grandfather, and that means it's a different performance is not true. With Woody, he's constantly evolving. He's bringing something new to the table each time. He's conveying a different emotion that links up with a different crowd of population.
But earlier you literally just said that his performance in 4 is literally a continuation of 3, which actually invalidates the point that you just said, where he's giving a different performance every single time. He's, as you just said, he's not giving a different performance the entire time. He's giving the same performance as you just said. Whereas with Ned Beatty, he's giving a very, very layered performance that you don't see.
That you don't see. Strike it from the record. But he's going first, so maybe he can just say it again. 1 minute when you start talking.
After Tyler said that, that Tom Hanks gives a different performance every single time and she gives a different character every single time, then he went and proved my point that he was giving the same performance throughout some of those films. So he's actually doing my argument for me there. Whereas with Ned Beatty, you're right. He can be very manipulative. He can be very sinister, but the amount of warmth you see from Lotso and you hear in Ned Beatty's voice is not shared with the other villains. The amount of sinister and pain that you feel is not being shared by them. Gabby was not a sinister villain. Lotso was, and you could hear in his voice. Stinky Pete did not have the warmth and pain, and nuance. Kelsey Grammer did not do that nearly as well as Ned Beatty. There's no other character that gives the powerhouse performance that Ned Beatty does in the franchise, period.
Payson, remind me to bring up something about Stinky Pete. Tyler, you have 1 minute when you start.
So Will keeps saying that I said that I proved his point. I didn't prove his point. There's a thing called growth that happens in movies. It's what happens when there's an arc. That happens with Woody each time. That is why he's a different character, even though he's still at his core the same Woody. What Tom Hanks brings to this is he brings complex emotions that you don't normally see in any animated movie, and that's going to be things like envy, negative emotions, envy, hate, fear, everything. Things that you don't expect to see, especially from your hero character, he's able to convey, and you still feel he is the hero. So that is what Woody brings to this table. Lotso, his whole backstory is done way better in the previous one with Jessie, with her being left behind. You feel way more emotions. With his manipulations, Stinky Pete did that exact same thing in the previous movie, and he did it more successfully. With the loneliness and pain and fear and authoritarianism, that's Christina Hendricks brings that with Gabby. She has that menace. She's the only one that actually truly hurt Woody. So everybody else has done the same thing as he does. The only thing that Lotso has going for him is that he's an old man and he has a cane.
All right. Bringing in the judges.
It's an interesting match.
What I was going to say that I wanted to be reminded of was, you guys remember how they took out that scene, the blooper with Stinky Pete and the Barbies? Yeah. Come on, Pixar.
Okay.
It goes over the kid's head. You can leave it in. It's fine, Pixar. It's fine.
Yeah, if they notice what that is, then the parents need to have a conversation.
The parents are the problem.
Parents.
Mommy, why was Stinky Pete talking to those Barbies like that? Like, no one's saying that.
That also is the best. That was the best Pixar gag reel, by the way. I'm just gonna say.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
They could have stopped with the gag reels after that, and I would have been 100% fine with it.
I want them to.
Was that the one with the Bugs Life? Oh, I can't believe we're making a
Yeah,
Bugs Life
yeah.
2. That whole
Well,
thing.
it is a sequel.
Yeah, that's good.
I never said it was Bugs
It's
Life
a sequel movie, but it's not the Bugs Life 2. Okay, sorry. Getting off track. Payson, hit us whenever you're ready.
Yeah, real quick. Okay. Interesting debate. We spent a lot of it debating on other villains in the Toy Story franchise. And part of me was just thinking, why didn't we just pick these other villains if we're going to do that? But eventually, we got back on track. I did end up going with Burch again. Will, I want to apologize. I'm sorry. I think Tyler did. I think taking one performance versus four performances throughout the franchise is always going to be tough. And I think Will did a very good job arguing what Ned Beatty is doing differently from the other villains, what makes him so menacing. But I think Tyler did a really great job of saying, like, no, Woody isn't this one-dimensional character, and that he does show growth through each movie, and that's shown in Tom Hanks's performance, and you see that in the vocal levels he gives. So I did end up going Tyler.
Jack, your thoughts? You're muted.
Whoops. So yeah. Every time I debate a performance question, Tim says something along the lines of, "We got really lost in the weeds about this, and it was never something that was intended." And I definitely felt that with the villain talking here. However, we did eventually get back to it, like Payson said, and I agree with him in the sense that Will did an excellent job of arguing Ned Beatty's one performance. I also agree with Payson in the sense that it's a very difficult battle to fight when you're arguing one performance against four different performances from the same actor. And so I did go with Tyler Burch. I thought he did really well in arguing why each of Tom Hanks's performances in the movies are unique from each other, while still keeping the same core of who that character is. Not all of the hits against Woody landed for me, but Ned Beatty is also an excellent performance. So, two very good picks from the competitors.
Before my vote doesn't count, but before I give it, I just want to say, I messaged this to Nick. Quote, "You get the fear in his voice, the anger, the longing. He longs for power.
Stop.
And you get that all in the performance. I'll give you $1 million if you guess what Will is talking about in this quote." And his guess was Groot. Good guess. I said no, Lotso, and he said, "Oh, fair."
No, Groot's performance has a lot more sexual tension.
I did also go with Tyler, though. I think I'm more down the middle than my co-judges here. I thought Will actually did a really good job on the Woody attack and on the pro Lotso. And he had me actually kind of convinced that Woody was kind of boring, one note yelling for most of the franchise. And the thing that Tyler almost lost it for me when he was talking about like all of the comparisons to the other villains and stuff. Like you guys said, we spent a lot of time on that. We talked about it for a long time. And Tyler wasn't so much talking about the comparisons in the acting, but in the character. And I was like, Tyler, don't go down this route. That's going to lose you the point. But then he brought it back and saying, and the big difference is that this time it's voiced by a grandpa and it sounds like it. And I was like, there it is. So I think Tyler did a good job of kind of, at the end of the day, saying like, it is a performance that is like the other performances, just by an old man. And I bought into the Woody changing over 4 movies, therefore the performance changes. So I went with Tyler, which means Tyler's up 2-1, which means Will needs to hit this next one in order to send it to the bonus. So the category is comedy. The question is, which pre-2011 Kevin Smith directed comedy has the funniest scene? Will, we're going to start with you. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
So when you look at all of Kevin's View Askew films pre 2011, it's really hard to really pick between a lot of his like big comedies. I wound up going with Clerks 2 because there's so many very, very big comedic scenes that that you can pull from, where you can easily call that the biggest, the best scene in there, the funniest scene. My favorite scene of all time in that film is the Lord of the Rings versus Star Wars debate, where even Kevin Smith, who has been a known critic of the Lord of the Rings films, actually manages to get points against Star Wars and for Lord of the Rings, and the way that it just keeps escalating is just absolutely hilarious for any geek.
Time. All right, let's move over to Mr. Burch. Tyler, you have 1 minute when you start.
It's funny that Will chose the Star Wars scene from Clerks 2 because I went along in a similar vein, which was the Hooper X talking about Star Wars scene and chasing Amy. So this is during a Comic-Con panel where the two main characters go in there and they talk about Star Wars with him. And he goes on his tirade about Black people being taken seriously in sci-fi and fantasy. Holden reminds him of the token Black guy, Lando Calrissian, and the honor that he had of flying the Millennium Falcon, which just enrages him. He talks all about how it's gentrification, how they messed up Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi because underneath he's just some crusty white guy. And then at the end of it, after he gets so tired of the two characters asking him all these questions, he just shoots one of them with a gun, starts shouting Black Rage, and everybody runs out. Truly a hilarious scene. Got a great chuckle out of me. And to top it all off, at the end, it turns out this is all a persona. This is all just a play that they're putting on, making it even funnier that he was just channeling this character for views.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
I mean, Kevin Smith obviously loves his Star Wars, and every single time he brings up Star Wars, there's usually some like intelligence behind it, and there's some, obviously comedic behind it. The reason why I think my scene works better than yours, though, is because there, it's the only time that you would actually hear Kevin Smith, who is a true Star Wars fan, actually not really intelligently knock Star Wars. And the fact that it's just nothing but verbal sparring. There are no guns are being waved, there's no antics. It's just nothing but just verbal sparring. That's what makes this funny. Like it's all deadpan. It's all done, it's all done with just like the utmost serious, which leads to its comedy. Whereas your scene is just a dude yelling for a bunch and then Banky going, he's not, and getting shot. It's not as funny as you're pitching here, bud.
Well, so for Clerks 2, I guess our perceptions are different because it seemed like he was just taking a dig at Lord of the Rings the whole time. It's just, I mean, is it an accurate scene? Yeah, that's what you and all your nerdy buddies talk about. But as far as comedy goes, all the jokes are really weak. Mannequin Skywalker is nothing. They're just talking about the hobbits and how they're gay for each other is really just nothing, and really just dates it for the time. Randall is so annoying that even though he's making accurate points about the walking of the movies, still doesn't get a laugh out of you. The jokes are few and far between, so it doesn't do anything. For mine, it just clips. It clips. You say that he's just yelling. That's the whole point. He's yelling and he's bringing up points and he's giving you a perspective that makes you laugh. I mean, and talking about Banky and him standing up, that's comedic timing. The comedic timing is them standing up, saying one sentence, sitting down, and then it just makes Hooper X erupt even more. That's the whole bit, and it works. It gets you to laugh because you just see how he's getting worked up, and then it pays off in an unexpected way where in this Comic-Con he just pulls a gun and starts shooting at people. You don't see that coming, and you're just genuinely surprised and delighted that this is with this argument that holds a lot more water than the Clerks 2 argument.
So first of all, trying to dig at my film for literally doing what we are literally doing right now is kind of an odd choice. Of course, geeks are going to have nerd wars with each other. That's exactly what we're having right now, is a nerd war. So obviously it's compelling and it's relatable. Also, if you're gonna say, well, he's giving accurate points against Lord of the Rings, well, lots of people find that funny. Having the line, having the Lord of the Rings nerd say, "I'm going to kick your ass back to the Shire" with the straightest of faces is fucking great. The fact, having Elias call Randall Jar Jar is so awkward. It's absolutely hilarious, and you can feel just the tension and the hilarity in there. Everything about your scene, because it's a gimmick, because because it's an absolute gimmick, and this is persona, that takes the wind right out of the sails, because you know how much Hooper hates using that persona, which actually makes that entire scene more tragic when you look at it in the whole of the film. Whereas with my scene, this is exactly who Randall is. This is exactly who Elias is. And they, the fact that they were just constantly butting heads throughout the entire film with Lord of the Rings and with Star Wars and everything like that, just absolutely indicative of what kind of film this is. The subtlety of the film is just brilliant because of it.
There's no subtlety about Clerks 2. There's never been subtlety of Clerks 2.
In this scene, there's lots of subtlety.
No, there's not. So you talk about the tragedy of Hooper X. I don't think that's how people see it. I think people always will get a laugh from that scene. Hooper X is an interesting character that you see throughout this movie, but that's besides the point. For you're talking about Randall and Elias. They're all such weak characters. They don't have anything interesting. You're taking a dig at me because we're doing a debate right now. I mean, it's something you do with your friends. You talk about accuracy is funny. Like, none of that is funny. None of that is going to get people to laugh. You think about when Chasing Amy came out, there really was just a token black guy with Leno Calrissian. And so you can understand why he would be so angry about what they did to this franchise. And honestly, you can almost make it seem like, oh, that's why Mace Windu got created. He's always just hitting with the hits, and it's edgy humor. It's not just Mannequin Skywalker.
Time. Okay. Let's start with Tyler. Tyler, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
So the Hooper X scene is just something that's just funny. It just clips along. Every single joke lands. Things like Banky asking what a Nubian is and upsetting. Hooper X calling Luke a Nazi poster boy with his blonde hair and blue eyes. Death Star being gentrification. Every single thing hits, and it still hits today. It still gets you a laugh today. With the Clerks 2 one, maybe back in 2006, people thought that this was funny because it was a timely thing because of when those movies came out. I don't know. But it's just so boring. Nothing happens. They make some really lazy jokes about all the different characters with puns. Randall just tries to be his usual rude self, which is just like everything else he does in every single movie. And it just doesn't land. His thing where he just like, and we're walking, and we're walking, and we're walking. The slowness of that is exactly how I feel about this scene. It's just so slow. It's not funny. You don't get any laughs out of it. You have Elias being such a weak character, and the customer is just there just to throw up at the end and get a laugh because puke.
Time. Okay. Let's go over to Will. Will, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
The problem with the Hooper X scene is that Hooper X starts off at a reasonable level and then just yells and yells and yells and yells and yells. After a while, that gets old. if you want to talk about like actual humor, I have talked, I have talked to multiple people about the Clerks 2 scene with the Lord of the Rings versus Star Wars, and everyone cites that as still one of the funniest debates that they've ever seen, because it's one of the funniest scenes that they have ever seen. That they actually see both sides of it. Lines like "I'm going to kick your ass back to the Shire." Lines like Frodo should have bricked in Sam's mouth. Lines like, this is the award-winning scene. Walks off. All that said with minimal dialogue, and yet it's still absolutely hilarious because in her heart it's true, and that's what true humor really is.
Okay, let's bring in the judges.
Well, while they're doing that, I had such a hard time today finding stuff on Woody because every single thing on YouTube was Toy Story 5 trailer. I chose the worst day to try to do some research.
I just got home from work, so I saw the trailer.
I was just like, okay, nuances in performance, and they're like, Toy Story 5 trailer, Toy Story 5 trailer. I was just like, come on.
But you know also dropped that you and I need to like talk more in depth about the Ice Nine Kills song.
Yes, yeah.
We need to talk about that because that's a tight fucking song. Okay, Declan, you should be in bed by now, buddy. Good night, buddy. Sympathy point.
Whoa! No.
I think my daughter has like very similar pajamas. Are those dinosaurs?
No, they're polar bears.
Ah, damn. Okay. Anyway,
dinosaurs of the north.
He does have dinosaurs. I think no, he does. No, he grew out the dinosaur ones.
Total tangent.
Right, buddy. Love you.
But Ellie has Spider-Man pajamas, and now we have Spider-Man pull-ups, and she's like, "Daddy, I got 3 Spider-Man." And I said, "Yes, you do, baby. Good job."
No, she's Spider-Man 3. Oh no.
Well, no, it's Spider-Gwen, Spider-Man, and Miles on the pull-up. Anyway, I have no idea what they're talking about. Not a Kevin Smith fan, though I haven't given him a chance. As far as his films, the films I've seen, I like Zack and Miri. I think that's a very funny movie.
I enjoy that a lot.
I saw Tusk. It made me want to off myself. And I've seen a few. I've seen a few other things.
Like yoga hosers.
When I say that Tusk haunted my nightmares for like years, I'm not joking. That movie.
Now you understand why I chose the year here, Tim.
I was gonna ask. Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. I went with Tyler, and ultimately, in these types of questions, when we're talking about funniest stuff that is supposed to make you chuckle, the description of Tyler's scene made me laugh. I like what Will was going for in the like of what his scene was. The way he explained it to me, if I watched it, I'd probably enjoy it just based on the content of what it was. But nothing was said that made me really feel like Tyler's wasn't super great and super funny. And Tyler just kept taking what Will was saying and turning it back around on him. And I felt like Tyler did a good job of kind of taking down Will's as just like it's what we're doing now, but like, so what? Like, it's just, that doesn't mean that it's funny. So I went with Tyler. Payson, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think this was the least close argument of the night for me. I think one person had the right scene on paper and also argued it very, very well. I also went with Burch. I think Will. There are moments in Will's scene that he was pitching that I do genuinely think are funny. Like the point of, here's your award-winning scene. That is genuinely funny in the movie. I just think Tyler just showed how just I think wiser and just smarter his scene is from like the gentrification of the Death Star to Lando was the only black character. When he said maybe that's why they made Mace Windu in the prequels, I almost lost it backstage because I just imagined someone from Lucasfilm watching that and thinking, I saw what Will was trying to do of saying, hey, when you see what Hooper is really, it only makes that sad. It only makes that character more sad. And Tyler said, rightfully said, no, it honestly just kind of makes it more funny because it's even more messed up. And I just think Tyler just had a really great scene and argued it very well.
Okay, Jack, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
I'm in a similar boat as you, Tim, in the sense that I haven't really given Kevin Smith a chance, although that's not really out of anything intentional on my part. I just haven't seen any of his movies. So I'm going into this question blind. One of these scenes made me laugh quite a bit backstage, and it took a very long time until the end of one of the closings to make me laugh on the other one. And I do agree that Will made some really good points, but I did also end up going with Tyler. I thought Tyler argued his really well. Everything he was saying in favor of his scene made me made me laugh. Quite a bit of it did. The description of it, the lazy sounding puns that he threw out from Will's scene. I wasn't a huge. Those didn't really work well for me. Just on for jokes. So all in all, I do think Tyler did the better job here. And I would agree with Payson. I think this one was probably the least close of the arguments, but Will still put up a hell of a fight here. Just Tyler was a little too much for this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, that means your winner is Tyler Burch. Congratulations to Tyler, but also congrats to Will, because I thought Will played really well as well. I mean, I voted 2-2. You guys didn't. I'm just going to put that out there. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I thought this was a great match, Jack. I want to get some final thoughts from you. Great job, by the way, Jack. Very well on the judging and the talking about the judging and the stuff. Jack, what your final thoughts on the match?
Thank you. I was nervous going into this because it's my first time judging and I wasn't really sure how I was going to do. So I'm glad you approve. I would love to do it again. Yeah, I thought this was a very good match. Both players, there was never. How do I put this? Both players did an excellent job throughout this match. I thought Will kind of dominated that Muppets question, or that musical question, a little bit, and I think Tyler dominated this one, this last one. The other two were a little closer for me, but yeah, no, I thought this was a really hard-fought match, and honestly, if these two go at it again, I can see it going either way. So, yeah.
Yeah. Payson, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I know my votes don't make it seem that way. I do think this was a really, really great match. I think most of the debates were very, very close. Honestly, listen to your guys' argument. Your guys' rulings about the musical question makes me say that maybe I probably should have voted for Will, but I voted for how I stood, and I stick with it. I think Will. I think Tyler had really, really great choices tonight and backed them up really well. Even in situations where I didn't think he had the right choice, like that Spielberg one. I think the fact that Captain Hook from Hook beat Amon Goth from Schindler's List proves it's not about the pick; it's about the argument. So Will doesn't have anything to hang his hat against, but I think Tyler just played a really, really great match.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Great match from both players, and we'll see both of them back real soon with another debate. But that's going to do it for us. We'll see you back next week with a debut match. Looking forward to this. We got Josh Forbes, friend of Javi, He's coming in. He's playing John Marr. Blood will be on the ground, I'm assuming. So I'm looking forward to that debut match. Thank you to Tyler and Will. Thank you to Jack and Payson for judging. Thank you to the other people who make this show run. Your Kirks, your Marks, your Bryans, your Nicks. We love you. We'll see you next time. Until then, bye.
Hands, touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you, sweet Caroline.
Ba, ba, ba. Fuck!